Did you correctly answer less than 1 year? That's right. The single largest group of North Carolina teachers, 7.2%, are in their first year of teaching, and actually more than 25% overall have less than 5 years in the classroom. Our next two guests are the filmmakers behind Teacher of the Year. They are Jay Korreck, who is a filmmaker and Chief Design Officer at Large Productions, and next to him is Rob Phillips, also with At Large Productions, and I should point out a current teacher at Leesville Road High School as well. This is my kind of show. We've got everyone on the show is a teacher or a former teacher. Jay, you were a teacher as well. So, all right, let me start first with you, Jay. How did the idea of a documentary start in the first place?
Sure. So Rob and I were both teaching at Leesville Road High School when we started this project. And the idea came with some of Rob's reading around the impact of Hollywood teachers on real teachers. So we started with this sort of big idea of how does that happen? And then we decided to focus on Angie, largely because we thought going in depth with one teacher would be a better way to show some of these impacts than several teachers.
Right. Now, so how did you decide on Angie? I mean, picking one, but I mean, obviously y'all were teaching together at that point, but why Angie?
Well, Angie and I were colleagues, first of all, and of course Jay as well at the time. And the great thing is that she's an awesome teacher and she had a great reputation. She's also completely willing to be open and honest, and that really she gave us complete freedom. She just said, you know, whatever you do, just tell the truth, and we tried to honor.
Well, that's why I asked her. She really puts herself out there.
Absolutely, she truly does, and she's one of the most authentic, genuine subjects I think you could ever hope for, and her willingness and to be open and honest and to share has been just a blessing for us. So. That's
great. So how was this funded? I mean, obviously you had an idea, but it takes cash.
Yeah, it does take cash. So I guess the first monies came from our own pocket, and pretty quickly after we started production, we realized we were going to need some help in terms of funding. So we did a initial Indiegogo campaign, and even before that, we just had people donate directly to our sort of a PayPal button. And we initially just needed to raise money to get a camera, some microphones, some editing software, workstation. And then as the film has progressed, we've realized that we need costs to cover post-production. So we need money to cover post-production. So we've recently set up a Kickstarter fund to help us with that.
All right, let me give you a chance to plug the website, teacheroftheyearfilm.com.
That's correct.
All right, and you can find that on our website too. So that's the place that you can find it if you want to support the film financially. You can also find out how to see it, because I want to make sure that we mention it's going to be premiering in the 1st of March, actually at a conference that our previous guest, Mary Dalton, is helping put together, right?
Right, that's exactly right. So Mary's conference, or the conference that Wake Forest is hosting, that in large part she's coordinating, is where the premiere will be, and some other scholars that are going to be in the film, like for instance Dr. Robert Bowman, who's going to, I think, deliver the keynote address on the night before the screening. It's just there's so many opportunities for people to learn about these big ideas that we became fascinated with, and we're so grateful we got to work with these wonderful folks.
So you can go to that website, teacheroftheyearfilm.com, or of course the ncforum.org, our website about the show. We'll have all these links for people. Now I'm going to ask both of you this. I'll ask you first, Jay. You make a documentary. Obviously, it might be something you're interested in, but I would assume that you want to accomplish something. Yeah. I mean, what do you hope to accomplish with this documentary?
Well, I think first and foremost, we want to tell a good story. And I think our thinking is if you tell a good story and you're honest in your approach to that story, it's very much like teaching. A documentary is sort of pure inquiry, right? You start with a question and you explore that question. And so our question is, what happens when a real teacher tries to be a Hollywood hero? And we try to really stay true to that question. And so we want people to be entertained. We want people to be interested in that story. And then we hope that it will facilitate some dialogue about what teachers really do. Right. And if we can, sort of, Roger Ebert called a movie an empathy machine, right? So if we can increase empathy around Angie's life in particular, and by extension other teachers, I think we've done our job.
What do you think? Is it saying anything else? And also things that are maybe in the documentary that you think people don't probably know or don't really understand?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been teaching now almost 20 years, not quite as long as Angie. And I would say that the thing that I would hope most, I'm sort of piggybacking on what Angie said during her segment, was nuanced discussion. We really need people to see the truth and to see the honest reality of what education actually is and what teachers really do in the classroom. And if we can be a small part of that discussion, that dialogue, then we feel like we've accomplished it. And of course, as Jay said, we want people to have fun. I mean, we think it's a fun film and has a lot of surprises I don't think that people will expect. So that's...
This notion that Mary was talking about how Hollywood portrays teachers, is that something you were already aware of, something you thought about when you went into it?
You know, not to the degree or the extent that we discovered through the film, and I think that's another reason why the film kind of lives and isn't sort of dead on the vine, is that we were discovering along with Angie, right? And as we edited, our notions about these things developed as well. So Rob was certainly a lot more versed in that idea than I was at the beginning of the film, and I learned a lot about it. So.
Right. I guess final thoughts on the documentary. Is there one thing that you hope people take away from it if they don't take anything else away when they see the film?
That good teaching oftentimes comes out of mistakes. That oftentimes the best teachers are the ones that are willing to take the risks, that are willing to fail, that are willing to make mistakes. And we have to make sure that we allow teachers, especially given the factoid that you shared early on in the segment, we got a lot of young teachers, and if they don't feel like they can make mistakes, how can they grow and change? I mean, Angie and I have both realized as veteran teachers that real teaching, you really start to sort of hone your craft around year 10 or so. And we need more veteran teachers, because once we retire, who's going to fill the ranks?
That's awesome. Thank you both for being here. Thanks for doing this. It sounds like a love letter to the teaching profession.
It really is.
And you know what? They need it.
Yes,
they
sir.
need it.
That's
So
right.
thanks so much. After the break, this week's Leadership Spotlight.